I finally found the guitar sound I'd been searching for my whole life. This pedal literally made my dreams come true. Hello Internet, my name is Tesler-Mabé, and today we're going to talk about the glorious sound of preamp saturation. I think it might be one of the coolest hidden gem sounds in all of recorded music. There are certain types of guitar tones that I could never quite figure out. It drove me crazy. I heard it in my dreams. I wanted to recreate it so badly, but I just didn't know how. What all of these guitar tones have in common is a blistering, scuzzy, ferocious fizz. The tone is so saturated, but somehow still articulate. There is a certain texture to these guitar tones that I was in love with, that no overdrive, distortion, or fuzz pedal could quite capture. And believe me, I tried a lot. I could get closer with some of the more wild and fizzy fuzz pedals I tried, but it still wasn't quite untamed enough. So I had an idea. Let's plug the fuzz pedal right into my interface. This was starting to move in the right direction. Now the fuzz was coming through completely naturally without the tone curve of the amp smoothing things out. But this only made it more clear that as cool as the fuzz direct-in sound was, this wasn't really what I was hearing in those guitar tones I wanted to recreate so badly. An inherent quality to a gain pedal, whether it's overdrive, distortion, or fuzz, is some amount of compression. But I wanted the guitar tone to snarl when I really dug in and have that broken up yet glassy sheen when I played with a lighter touch. I needed more dynamic range. I wasn't finding that with any of the gain pedals I tried. I needed something that would get as dirty as I wanted it to without compressing the life out of it. So I thought, why don't I skip the fuzz pedal and just go straight into my audio interface's preamp cranked up as far as it could go. Now I was really getting somewhere. I think this was it. The magic of preamp saturation. Preamps can be standalone units that you run your signal through, but almost all audio interfaces and recording consoles have built-in preamps. I was running into my nice and trusty audio interface, which, don't get me wrong, it's pretty great, but all of the songs that I wanted to recreate the tones of were recorded through beautiful, expensive recording consoles. Like, I'm talking roughly 50 to 100K or more.
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell.
And I love gear. I'm ready to spend my hard-earned dollars on sick gear, but it's a little bit tough to justify 50 grand for gear that I really just wanted to experiment with. Before we continue and get into some delicious guitar sounds, let's define some terms. What is an interface? What is a recording console? What is a preamp? What is preamp gain, distortion, and saturation? Let's talk about all of it. An audio interface converts analog sound to digital and back again. In layman's terms, it's how you get the sound of your guitar or microphone into your computer so that you can record it. It turns your analog signal into digital data your computer can use. Audio interfaces developed alongside computers, and their goal has pretty much always been to be as transparent as possible so they can capture your signal in its rawest form without adding any noticeable coloration. On the other hand, a recording console is a large hardware mixer that takes multiple audio signals like vocals, guitars, drums, and keyboards and lets you shape, blend, route, and control them in real time. Basically, a recording console is a hands-on mixer used to shape and route many audio signals, or just one, often adding its own character in the process. What both interfaces and recording consoles have in common is that they almost always contain preamps, which are a significant factor in shaping and adding character to your audio signal. A preamp is a small amplifier that boosts a weak signal, like the output of a microphone or a guitar pickup, to a strong enough level for recording or processing. In other words, it takes a quiet signal and makes it loud enough to be usable. As an example, let's say your guitar signal is too quiet. The preamp boosts it. When you turn the gain knob up, you tell the preamp how much to boost your signal. If you turn your gain knob up too far, the signal distorts or clips. This is broadly called preamp distortion. Usually, when recording, you want to avoid having your signal distort or clip. Avoid the red. But this is a special case where we actually want that distorted sound. When you hit the sweet spot and a preamp breaks up with all the right saturated harmonics coming through and the circuit is overloaded just right, this is preamp saturation. This was the tone that I was chasing. So what is the difference between the gain you'd get from pushing a preamp in an interface versus what you'd get from pushing the preamp in a recording console? Generally speaking, console preamps add musical character when they amplify your signal. On the other hand, interface preamps generally aim to be clean, neutral, and transparent, adding as little coloration as possible. Interface preamp distortion can sound super cool, but potentially be harsh or brittle. Console preamps typically have an inherent warmth to them, and they just really sing, especially when pushed to their limits the right way. Long story short, I needed that tone. I never thought I'd be able to get past the unbelievable financial barrier until I found this pedal, the JHS Crayon. The Crayon was inspired by the sound you get when you plug directly into a studio console and slam the preamp, the crunchy, saturated tone from overloaded analog circuitry. Let's get into the fun part of this video and see if I can recreate these guitar tones I've been chasing for years, starting with Revolution by the Beatles. Back in 1968, the great Geoff Emerick was the recording engineer on these sessions. The Beatles, of course, have a couple versions of Revolution, but we're talking about the version of Revolution that was a B-side single to Hey Jude, arguably the most famous one. Emerick explained that he routed the signal through 2 microphone preamps while keeping the amount of overload just below the point of overheating the console. This was such a severe abuse of the studio equipment that Emerick famously said, "If I was the studio manager and I saw this going on, I would fire myself." Let's dial it back a year from 1968 to 1967 and see if we can recreate Lou Reed's vicious rhythm guitar part in the Velvet Underground's I'm Waiting for the Man. Unlike most of the album, which was recorded at Scepter Studios in post-apocalyptic condition, in the words of John Cale, this track was recorded at TTG Studios direct into whatever nice and beautiful custom tube console they had there. Now, let's travel forward to 1973 and see how close I can get to the hairy top-end fizz and mid-range bite in Steely Dan's My Old School. It's hard to say definitively which console was used for this track, but it's widely accepted that the Quad 8 2082 console was the famed Steely Dan console that was such a staple of so much of their sound. Let's see if I can get that Jeff Skunk Baxter Steely Direct-In tone. Time traveling forward to 1991 and the recording of Nirvana's Nevermind, let's see if I can get that trashy and thrashy and awesome tone from Territorial Pissings. Butch Vig, who of course produced Nevermind, had this to say about the recording of this track. Kurt wanted to plug straight into the desk for a trashy punk sound, but I didn't think that the guitar had any balls. So we actually split the signal between an amplifier and plugged Kurt's Proco Rat distortion pedal directly into the Neve control board and blended both into the final mix. So I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna use my mystery Bart Simpson guitar pedal, the Brat, which is the closest pedal I have to a Proco Rat, then split the signal. I'll run one path into my Crayon to emulate the direct-in console preamp saturation Kurt Cobain wanted, and the other path into a Fender Twin Reverb for the amp tone that Butch Vig wanted. Then I'll blend them together and see how it turns out. Lastly, we're going to jump forward to 2007 to try and recreate the intense muffled distortion in Bodysnatchers by Radiohead. For this guitar sound, Johnny Greenwood plugged directly into the preamps of a late 60s EMI era console that In Rainbow's producer Nigel Godrich was using at the time. They pushed the preamps hard to get that raw, unfiltered console saturation that makes this guitar tone so delicious. Alright. When I discovered this guitar tone, I was so excited about it, I just had to make a video because I'm sure there are at least a few other people out there who would be excited about it too. We talked about preamp gain, distortion, and saturation, consoles and interfaces. We even got a little into studio production. But hopefully doing so along real-world musical context for these concepts brought some depth and understanding. Let me know if you like this video down below and if there are any other topics you'd like for me to explore. And if you enjoyed this video, please refrain from subscribing. I'm trying to become the least subscribed person on YouTube. Thank you, bye.